Hey everybody, welcome to Tony's Time PGA Tour 3M Open TPC Twin Cities up in Baline, Minnesota here this week. Arnold Palmer designed course, and of course joining me as he does every week, my good friend and fellow golf buddy, Mr. Doug Upstone. Doug, an interesting tournament this week, not a lot of star power. And as I was, and I do comb and watch some fantasy golf podcasts, which I really like, and get some good information from them as well as those websites. And a lot of those guys, don't know what to do this week because this is going to be one of those tournaments, Doug, that you're going to have to handicap 75 to 100 guys deep. Especially the way I approach the tournament on a daily head-to-head, because you don't have all the superstars up there. It's going to be a difficult handicap this week. I'm up to the challenge, but nonetheless, Doug, interesting tournament this week.
Yes, two things, Tony, is that that was my impression going in, to be perfectly honest, when I first started. But then when I started looking at the numbers, to be perfectly honest, I just saw a lot of things that stood out to me. And so I'm actually pretty excited about the tournament this week. I ended up with a total of 7 plays, 5 of them including, top 5 to top 20 finishes, plus some head-to-head tournament action too. So I'm a little more positive than some about this. And hey, and speak different things. We talk about all the good stuff. Let's sometimes kind of mention the truth too. And I was one of the ones that was against Jon Rahm last week. Oops, missed it by that much. It wasn't even close. Hey, the guy played great, and for anyone that had him, fantastic for you. But boy, I didn't see it coming. I know he had a good last round and the Sunday prior, but boy, nothing would have ever guessed he would have played that well, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, he faltered down the stretch on Sunday. I know a lot of guys had him up against Ryan Palmer, and of course the 2-stroke penalty on 17. Palmer ended up with a better score than him for the day, and that killed a buddy of mine with a lot of money on that head-to-head. I had him on a head-to-head on Sunday against Tony Finau for a 6-unit play, and quickly you'll notice above us here, let me point the right direction, right there, $360 from Doc Sports. Undefeated last week in the Memorial and hit a 6-unit pick, and I am plus $3,900 for a $100 player in the PGA Tour picks on my head-to-heads daily the last 2 weeks. And, Thursday's a big day. Not only do we kick off this PGA tournament, we kick off Major League Baseball and a rare NASCAR race on Thursday night in Kansas City at the 1.5-mile track there in Kansas City. I've been to at least 24 times before I moved to Kansas City. So I'm kind of bummed about missing that race. I wanted to go back. My friend JJ Yaley drives in Monster Cup, but with this COVID thing, I'm just going to have to stay home and count my winnings on the golf, Doug, and then turn around and start adding up the winnings for NASCAR tomorrow night and baseball on the other TV. I'm in heaven right now, for sure. But nonetheless here, let's talk about this tournament here a little bit, and I'm going to throw out some names that I've been hearing. This is a 7,114-yard course. It's a bomber's course. It's also a birdie fest course. Matthew Wolff won this last year. I think he was 21 or 22 under, if I'm not mistaken. There was a lot of scoring on this course. You can expect the exact same thing. And as I mentioned, no big names in this tournament. Week filled. The star names in this tournament, and I wrote them out here somewhere where I wouldn't forget. You've got Dustin Johnson, who fired back-to-back 80s on the PGA Tour last week. This is one of the top players in the world. He fired a Doug Upstone and Tony George score at Painted Desert in Las Vegas. At Jack's tournament, you've got Brooks Koepka, who cannot find his game right now. Tony Finau, who I think is going to perform well here this week. Tommy Fleetwood coming off his COVID hiatus, making an appearance. Last time we saw Tommy Fleetwood was the TPC at Sawgrass, Doug, and he fired it as opening day 78 before they canceled the tournament. He's a big name been thrown around. Paul Casey, Bubba Watson, of course, Matthew Wolf as well, Russell Henley and Harris English, Lucas Glover. Those are really the top big names in this tournament. Some of them have been playing well here. It's interesting because three of the names that I'm hearing a lot of are Harris English, Patrick Rogers. Now, Rogers got, I think, 18th last week. Harris English had a top 15 last week. You're also hearing a lot of talk about Frederick Van Rooyen. That's a big buzz in the fantasy world this week. And I did some research on him, Doug, thinking, I know who he is, I and this, that, and the other, but I dug a little deeper on him. 315 yards off the tee box, which is top 25. However, he's hitting 52% in accuracy. That doesn't play out well on any TPC course. I don't care how easy it's deemed. And he's tied in 73rd in birdies per round, which is a stat I'm going to be looking at this week. Birdies per round, greens in regulation. And when you get back to Van Rooyen, 4 tourneys this year, missed 2 of those cuts. So he's 50% making cuts this year. But those are the names that are being bounced around right now, Doug.
Yeah, in terms of Van Rooyen, I mean, this golf course, the one thing, as you mentioned, last year and likely this year too, a birdie fest for sure. It had the most birdies of any tournament last year. One thing, though, that is at least a little bit interesting, there is some trouble because it also had the 11th highest amount of double bogeys on the course because there's a great deal of water. And so, yes, you can bomb it, all around, okay? And some of these longer hitters are definitely going to overpower the golf course. The thing is, though, if you get 2 astray, now you're hitting 3. So that's where your problem comes into play on this golf course. So I think that's going to be a little different. I'm glad they did, actually. They made some changes on 17 and 18. Particularly in length. So I think that's going to be a little bit more advantageous. I'm not saying guys still can't, for example, on 18, still can't get an eagle on a par 5, but it's not going to be as simple as it was last year. Last year, guys were taking layups for eagles on 18. So they made it a little bit better that way. But Van Rooyen, I agree with you, Tony. You got to keep it at least sort of in the fairway. So that's, I think, from him. I'm not high on him this week at all. I don't have him on anything. Cross-referencing, his name just didn't come up for me at all.
Couple of things I wanted to touch on here. Last week, your game around the greens was extremely important at the Memorial. And you saw many top 25, top 35, top 50 FedEx Cup standing players looking like amateurs around the greens, trying to hack out of that rough that Jack Nicklaus puts up around those greens, and some very tough sand traps and a lot of greens surrounded by water and par 3s where they were dumping it in the lake like me and you would over a beer, out here at Paiute in Vegas. But at the end of the day, that is not going to be as an important of a statistic and a part of your game. Always, the PGA comes down to a putting contest. Most of these guys are on the tour because they can hit fairways and greens. It's a putting contest. And I played on a few events back in the early mid-90s on the mini tour trying to think I was going to cut my teeth in golf, and it boiled down to a putting contest. And I knew right then, I've caddied for guys on the Nike tour back in the day. Now it's called the Corn Ferry, that were friends. And it came down to a putting contest, and it's still going to be that way. But I want to take a look at a name. Now, Tony Finau last week had this tournament by the Short and Curlies up in Ohio, and he let it get away. And he let it get away late Saturday, and then on Sunday, he just completely dumped, for one reason or another. And that's been his MO on the tour. Always on the leaderboard, but fades late. He's a guy that you always want to fade in head-to-head matchups on Sunday especially against a good player in contention in the top 10, which usually he's in the final 4 or 5 groups. So, you're going to have a good head-to-head and a late tee time for him. But of all the big names in the field, he's playing the best golf still, even after the Memorial, Doug. He's in the top 20 in both stroke gains from tee to green, stroke gains, and strokes gained overall. And that's a huge statistic here. Do you think he has a bounce back this week? Because I don't think that he goes too far left of center, even after a bad Sunday and a so-so Saturday last week. He's still playing some phenomenal golf.
I would agree with you 100%, Tony, on that one. I think he's going to be a strong contender, to win this tournament. Obviously, his numbers his odds dictate that's the case. And he's never been one. He's got, I think Dustin Johnson more so even, but he doesn't let round to round affect him as much. I think it just got into, like a lot of these guys, and it's another topic for another day, how soft these PGA Tour players are because of the courses they generally play. But this is good. This is another one where, you know what, you just let last week go. It was a tough day. It was a tough golf course, a tough situation. But this is not going to be the case this week in Minnesota. So I think Finau, I definitely think he's going to be a top contender in this one. And, for anybody, some money, whether it be head to head or tournament, there's some things to take with him.
Yeah. Well, that being said, you're going to use a perfect segue right into my next question for you. Dustin Johnson, by far the best golfer in this field. If you take a look at the lineup in this field, and it's just like any other day in Major League Baseball or the NFL or the NBA, a real crappy team can beat the best team in the league. Same thing on the PGA Tour. You don't get a PGA Tour card unless you're an absolute freaking stud. I mean, that's just the way it works. So obviously that's saying something when I say I think he's the class of this field. But shooting back-to-back 80s, does that roll off his back like water off a duck's back? Does he come back in this tournament? PGA Championship right around the corner here pretty soon. A lot of players tuning up their games. Does he bounce back, come back pissed off, focused, dialed in? Because that's not his MO. He's not a real intense guy like a Brooks Koepka or a Tiger Woods. He's more kind of a laid-back golfer. But do you think he comes into this tournament with some extra fire? Do you think he's worth the stretch? Top 5, top 10, top 20 finish here?
Yes, I definitely do. We just talked about, he just doesn't dwell on many things. Now, in terms of his competitiveness, he can hit the ball as well as anybody on tour. He can hit all the shots. The only thing a lot of times for him is the putting. And, last week, who knows as to why? But, anybody that has pride, and especially like a guy that's one of the best players in the world, you shoot 80 once, okay, it's bad. You do it twice. If that's not extra motivation, playing on an easy course, then if he's not in the top 5 this week, it's really, to me, it's an upset from that standpoint, because he has everything that he needs on this golf course, and especially being able to hit irons tight. So if he can hit irons tight where he's, putting for birdie from, let's just say 12 feet on in, he's going to have a chance to shoot 63 any particular day on this golf course. So I think that for him is a real inherent advantage. I think he has a great shot at winning this tournament.
Well, there you go, folks. We're getting down to pick time here in this tournament. Once again, don't forget the free $60 right up there. There it is. Gosh, I got to get used to this backwards thing. But nonetheless, you take advantage of that free $60. Get yourself hooked up on Thursday for golf selections from WAD. Doug's got a ton of stuff over there. We got baseball going on, NASCAR tomorrow. We got WNBA starting Saturday. It's just a wonderful time of the year. It's almost tomorrow morning to me, Doug. It's almost like Christmas morning. I can't wait to get up and open up the presents. I'm ready to go. And Thursday is the day for the PGA Tour. I'm going to go ahead and give out my picks and have Doug give out his tops, whatever he's got this week, and I'll let you go first, my friend. What's they're here? You know, you're on. They're here for the free picks, baby. So let's give them some. Last week I had Jason. My free picks last week weren't all that good, but I had the one long shot at Jason Day plus 500, who came in even with a bad back. I don't think we'll see him until a major, the way he was struggling with his back. But I got a Thursday head-to-head for you. Some top 5, top 10, and top 20 finishes. I'm going to throw a bunch of them out there, Doug. Spread it around a little bit in this tournament. I think it's one of these tournaments, see if they can happen.
There we go. I had Xander last week for the top 20 as a free pick, and had a couple of winners also with some prop bets with Tiger. So we're going to try him yet again. I'm looking at a 3-player tourney pick. So the players are going to be Johnny Vegas, Will Gordon, and Charlie Huffman. Now, Vegas and Huffman, they're veteran players, okay, and they have shown decent form the last month or so. Now, Vegas missed the cut in his last outing, but previous to that, he had a tie for 24th and a tie for 27th in his last 2 starts. Gordon's a young player. He was really good at the Travelers about a little over a month ago, and finishing a tie for 3rd. But I'm just not sure he can duplicate that type of form, and and hasn't shown anything since. Now, Hoffman, he was tied for 7th in the first tournament at Muirfield Village, and his name has been on the in the top part of the leaderboard frequently. He was tied for 13th at Arnold Palmer, and he was tied for 9th at the Farmers Insurance. Hoffman's one of those kind of guys that once he gets on a little bit of a roll, he tends to stay that way until he doesn't. And so I think he'll continue to be here. So I would take Hoffman plus the 200 in this group of 3 bet for the tournament. What do you got, Tony?
Yeah, I agree with it. I like Charlie Hoffman, and he does. He's a very streaky golfer. There's no gray area with him. It's either black or white. He's either playing well or he's playing shitty. I mean, that's just how he rolls. And but I do like him. He's got a good temperament for this course. He's a very steady golfer. He does everything good, just not everything exceptional. And that's what keeps him from being an elite golfer. But he's like a Charles Howell. He's always kind of in the middle of the pack. And if he's having a really good week, look out. I'm going to go ahead and give you a Thursday head-to-head, and then do my top 5, 10, and 20 finishes for everybody. And then I've got a head-to-head I'm going to make you pick, Doug.
All right.
For Thursday. So my head-to-head tomorrow, I do agree with Mr. Upstone. I think Dustin Johnson is going to come back in this tournament with a vengeance. He's got length. He can cut corners on dog legs here. He's got a fantastic iron game. And I do think he will have a little bit of added incentive this week because, hey, anybody can shoot an 80 on tour on a bad day, but shooting back-to-backs in Jack's tournament, he's going to have a little added incentive. And I like him in a head-to-head minus 130 over Brooks Koepka tomorrow, who is just struggling with his all-around game. He's having trouble getting anywhere close to the pin on greens. He's having trouble missing fairways. He's just having trouble with his game. And I like Dennis Johnson tomorrow. That tee time is at 8:30. That is 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. So, Doug, you and I have to get up at 5:30 in order to watch that one on Golf Channel. But nonetheless, I'll take DJ over Brooks Koepka in round 1 of this tournament tomorrow. My top 5 finish plus 275 is going to be Tony Finau. I think he's going to contend for this tournament. I think he's going to be in the final 2 pairings on Sunday, barring an injury. I think he's one that you want to take a look at. Top 10 finish, I'm going to take Herrick's English plus 300 and DJ plus 115. I think those are too good. Top 20 finishes, I'm going to take Paul Casey at even odds. I like Paul in this tournament. He's one of the bigger names here. He's contended till late in the weekend, and most of these tournaments he's been playing in. But I like his game here, and I like Patrick Rogers plus 200. Two picks I have for you, Doug. Both of them involve Bubba Watson, who's playing here, and we all know who can bomb it. Bubba Watson, my first question is, Bubba Watson, top 10 finish plus 275. Is it worth the stretch?
That would be a small bet, and I would say about as small as you can make. I mean, he's either going to finish in the top 10 or outside the top 50. I mean, it's going to be either or for him, and that's just kind of how he plays now.
I think it's top 10 or he misses the cut.
Okay, all right. I won't disagree with you.
Yeah, that's how he plays. And then tomorrow, Bubba Watson in a head-to-head at a 1:40 Eastern Standard Time tee-off. Paul Casey. The odds makers don't have much confidence in Bubba Watson because Paul Casey is minus 145 over Bubba Watson in a head-to-head Thursday opening round. Doug, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they got it right. I mean, I'm with you. Paul Casey is in a strong situation. Well, I mean, in one round, certainly anything can happen, but Bubba Watson he started the year playing well, but he certainly hasn't played that well lately. I think that probably continues, especially with, I mean, you got to go low here. I mean, we're talking, at least minus 20 to have a shot. So I don't see that for Bubba doing. I can see him shooting a 65, maybe even 265s, but I also see a 73 in there as well.
Yeah, you don't know when that's coming, folks. My best bet out of all those would be Dennis Johnson, top 10 plus 115, which is a good number. That would be my official free pick, but I gave you these other ones here. Folks, be sure and get over to DocSports.com. We got a free $60 for you. We got PGA. We've got Major League Baseball. We've got NASCAR on Thursday. We've got some great programs, some great information over there for you. And obviously, we were remiss in our duties on this show as a final thought. Last time we saw this tournament, Matthew Wolff won it, Doug. Last time we saw a course close to this would be in Detroit, the Rocket Mortgage Classic, where he was in the final pairing on Sunday. Any chances of him doing a top 10, top 5 here?
I could see maybe a top 10. I mean, it's hard to repeat in any tournament.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing. And the other big difference, last year he got in on a sponsor's exemption. Okay. That's how he got to play. This year, now there's some expectations. And, I mean, yes, certain guys can handle it. I'm not saying he can't. But at best, I would say top 10. But, Tony, one thing I wanted to mention, too, you had talked about some of the different fantasy things. Another name that's out there that I saw quite a bit was Max Homa. And for the life of me, I have no idea why he's even being mentioned. I would say stay away from Max Homa completely on anything because he's missed 3 straight cuts, Tony, and 4 of the last 5.
Yeah, that's a definite fade pick there. Even in round 1, he's got some matchups, as well as another name that's getting thrown around that I can't buy into is Russell Henley. Show me something first, baby. That's what you got to do. We're going to show you the winners. Doug Upstone over here. Doug Upstone, me, Doc Sports. We got 10 other handicappers over there as well, kicking ass and taking names. Come on over and see us. Click that link in the description. Go with free $60. We'll be at you next week with another golf edition of Tony's Time. Thanks for tuning in.